Chapter 1. Childhood Promises. Flashback where it all begins. The Vale Mansion stood on the hillside like a glass crown, elegant, cold, and impossibly untouchable. Inside, the faint notes of a piano danced through the marble halls, mixing with childish laughter that didn't belong to the grandeur of the place. Aiden Vale, 10 years old, sat beside a smaller boy whose fingers were barely reaching the keys. "No, Elian," he said with a gentle sigh, his voice already carrying the careful patience of someone used to perfection. "You have to press softer like this." Elian Frost tilted his head, eyes wide, curls falling into his face. "Like this?" he asked, pressing a single key with exaggerated delicacy. Aiden smiled, a rare, quiet thing that only Elian ever got to see. "Exactly. You're a fast learner." "Of course I am," Elian declared proudly, puffing up his chest. "I'm going to be better than you someday." Aiden laughed, not mocking but fond, and leaned closer to whisper, "You can try, Eli, but I'll always win." The Frost and Vale families had been inseparable for decades, bound by business, bloodlines, and an unspoken hunger for prestige. Their mothers, ever close, had once laughed over afternoon tea and declared that their sons were destined for each other. The promise had been sealed with a smile and a glass of champagne. When they grow up, they'll marry, a union of love and legacy. And so, from the moment they could walk, Aiden and Elian had been each other's world. They attended the same tutors, played in the same gardens, and shared the same punishments when one of them got into trouble, which, truthfully, was usually Elian dragging Aiden along for mischief. If Aiden was a calm sea, Elian was a storm that refused to quiet. He followed Aiden everywhere, from fencing lessons to the library, clinging to his sleeve like it was his right. "Eli, you can't just sit on my lap while I study," Aiden said once, voice caught between laughter and exasperation. Elian crossed his arms, glaring up at him with pout. "Then don't study. You promised we'd play together." Aiden sighed. "That was hours ago." "Then you owe me hours," Elian said stubbornly, tugging at his sleeve until Aiden gave in. He always did. Everyone around them said the same thing, that they were adorable, inseparable, destined. The young heirs of two dynasties bound by a childhood promise. But time, as it often does, brought complications. When Aiden turned 16, whispers began to circle the Vale estate. The scent of an emerging alpha, sharp, dominant, unmistakable. Elian, barely 13, watched it happen with a strange, heavy feeling in his chest. He didn't understand what it meant yet, only that people looked at Aiden differently now. Reverently, fearfully. And soon, their parents' conversations changed tone. It would be improper. Two alphas cannot bond. We'll have to dissolve the arrangement. Elian didn't understand why it felt like someone had stolen his heartbeat. The day they told him, he refused to cry. He just nodded, quiet, while his mother gently stroked his hair and whispered, "You'll find someone else, darling." But he didn't want someone else. He wanted Aiden. He wanted the older boy's soft smiles, his gentle scolding, his warmth on winter mornings when they hid under the same blanket reading stories. And then, one morning, he woke to find Aiden gone. No goodbye, no letter, no explanation. Just a passing word from the butler. "Master Aiden has gone abroad to continue his studies. He'll be away for a few years." Elian had run to the gates barefoot, hair messy, nightshirt fluttering in the wind, hoping to catch even a glimpse of him. But the car had already vanished. He stood there for hours, shivering, until the rain began to fall. Inside his chest, something quiet snapped. The next few years were a blur of silence and obsession. While Aiden built his name abroad, studying, training, preparing to inherit Vale Corporation, Elian grew into something sharper, colder, and far too beautiful for his own good. His voice deepened, his confidence became unshakable, and his smile hid an intensity that made even adults wary. He trained not just for business, but for control of himself, of his emotions, of his future. He was waiting, always waiting. When his secondary gender tests finally arrived, The results made the Frost household erupt in chaos. Enigma. A rare classification, more precious than Omega, more powerful than Alpha, capable of both dominating and nurturing. An anomaly the world whispered about. Elian's mother tried to hide the papers, but he had already seen them. His lips curved into a small, dark smile. "So I'm not like him," he murmured. "No," his mother said softly. "You're rarer." Elian turned toward the window, where rain painted silver streaks down the glass, just like that day he'd watched Aiden's car disappear. "Good," he whispered. "That means he'll never be able to run again." From that day, Elian began planning quietly, patiently. He learned everything Aiden loved, every habit he had, every company he touched, every empire he built. He'd bring all of it down to his knees one day. And when Aiden returned, the boy he'd left behind would no longer be waiting. He'd be the man standing above him, smiling with the same soft fondness Aiden once gave him, but with eyes that promised something else. "You were my world once, Aiden. Now, I'll make you mine forever." Chapter 2. The CEO's Boring Life. The Vale Empire towered over the skyline. Glass, steel, and power, wrapped in silence. Inside its top floor, Aiden Vale sat behind his sleek mahogany desk, his expression cold enough to freeze boiling water. He wasn't just a CEO. He was the CEO, ruthless, efficient, and utterly uninterested in anything beyond quarterly reports and caffeine. At least, that's what everyone believed. In reality, he was just tired of people, of expectations, of pretending that money and success filled the space where his heart used to be. "Sir, the board members are waiting," his assistant said, voice trembling slightly. Aiden didn't even look up from his tablet. "They can wait another 5 minutes. I've been waiting 12 years for peace, and I still haven't gotten that either." The assistant blinked, unsure if he was joking. He wasn't. He finally stood, brushing an invisible speck off his suit jacket. Tailored black, immaculate, monotone, just like his life. As he walked through the corridors, people stepped aside automatically, a mix of admiration and fear following him like perfume. He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to smile. Aiden Vale's mere presence commanded the room. But when the elevator doors closed behind him, his sharp eyes dimmed for a moment. In the reflection of the metal walls, he saw not the man the world worshipped, but the boy who once smiled too easily, who once held hands under a piano table. He shook it off immediately. He always did. By evening, the board meeting ended another round of dry discussions about profits and mergers. Aiden leaned back, exhausted. Then came the call he dreaded. "Aiden." His father's voice was deep, authoritative, and annoyingly persistent. "Yes, father," he replied, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're 32. The board's concerned about succession. It's time you got married." "To what? The company?" Aiden deadpanned. There was a long pause. "To an Omega," his father said sharply. "You need an heir." Aiden stared out the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes like cold fire. "Right, an heir, because that's all I am to you, right?" His father ignored that. "There's a dinner tomorrow. The Rothschild family's Omega daughter is perfect. Don't embarrass me." Click. The call ended. Aiden let out a bitter laugh. "Perfect. Just what I needed, another soulless dinner with someone who wants my surname more than my soul." He tossed his phone onto the desk and muttered, "I'd rather marry my coffee machine." The next evening, he went. The Omega was beautiful, graceful, everything high society adored. But the moment she began talking about her social media following and charity galas, Aiden mentally checked out. Half an hour later, she asked, "What are your hobbies, Mr. Vale?" "Surviving," he replied dryly. She blinked. That's unique." "Thank you. I practice it daily." It was safe to say the date didn't end well. After that, he stopped attending altogether. He was too busy, too disinterested, too emotionally unavailable. Or at least that's what he told himself. Because the truth, The one he never allowed himself to say out loud was that no one else's voice ever sounded right. No one else's laughter ever felt warm enough. And no one else's eyes ever made his heart ache like that one boy he'd left behind. Elian Frost. Just the thought of his name made something twist inside him: guilt, longing, and a sharp stab of self-loathing. He'd ordered his PR team years ago to block any mention, any news, any publication that even mentioned Frost Industries. He didn't want to see Elian's face, didn't want to know what he'd become. Because he already knew the truth. If he ever saw him again, he wouldn't be able to walk away a second time. But fate, cruel and patient, had other plans. It began like any other day: meetings, deadlines, and an inbox overflowing with proposals from people who wanted something from him. Until his secretary walked in, clutching an envelope sealed in silver wax. "Sir," she said carefully, "this came directly from Frost Industries' headquarters." The moment the words left her mouth, Aiden's pen froze midair. He slowly looked up, his calm expression cracking for just a second. "From who?" "Frost Industries, sir." The envelope was simple. No threats, no excessive branding, just one line written in elegant cursive: a personal invitation to dinner from CEO Elian Frost. Aiden's pulse skipped, his throat tightened. The name hit him like a physical blow. Elian. The boy he left behind. The boy who'd once clung to his sleeve and whispered, "Don't leave me." The boy whose existence he'd buried under work, women, and lies. He forced out a breath, carefully setting the letter aside. "Throw it away," he said flatly. "We don't deal with Frost Industries." But his secretary hesitated. "Sir, the letter was hand-delivered. It's marked confidential." Aiden's fingers twitched. Hand-delivered. That meant Elian's people knew where to find him. He opened the letter. Inside, a short, neat message written in Elian's familiar handwriting. One Aiden had thought he'd forgotten, but instantly recognized. "It's been 12 years, Aiden. Don't you think it's time we talked?" His heart thudded painfully against his ribs. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window, the city blurring before him. "No," he whispered. "No, not again. Not him." But beneath his denial, his scent betrayed him: sharp, nervous, alpha pheromones trembling with old longing. The man who claimed to hate romance still loved a ghost. And that ghost had just knocked on his door. That night, Aiden sat alone in his penthouse, the unopened invitation lying on his glass coffee table. He poured himself a drink, but it didn't soothe him. The liquid burned down his throat, but the ache in his chest burned hotter. "You shouldn't have written to me, Eli," he murmured, eyes closing, "because I might just come." And somewhere across the city, in a gleaming white office, Elian Frost smiled faintly as he stared at the live security feed of Aiden holding the letter. "Oh, but that's exactly what I want, Aiden," he whispered. "Come to me." Chapter 3. The Reunion Dinner. The Frost Empire's private lounge wasn't just luxurious, it was intimidating. The kind of place where power hummed through the air and silence bowed to authority. Aiden Vale stepped through the heavy glass doors with his usual calm stride, his expression unreadable, his tailored suit crisp enough to cut air. He'd told himself 1,000 times that this was just business, a simple negotiation. Nothing more. And yet, his pulse wouldn't slow. He told himself it was irritation, not anticipation, not fear, certainly not longing. He pushed open the door. Then he froze. The lounge was softly lit, golden reflections spilling from the chandelier onto marble floors. And at the center of it, standing like sin, dressed in perfection, was Elian Frost. Gone was the boy with messy curls and stubborn pouts. The man before him was devastating, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in an immaculate white suit that gleamed under the light. His platinum hair was neatly styled, his skin glowed under the soft amber hues, and his dark eyes held a warmth that could melt steel or burn it. Aiden's breath caught. 12 years melted away in an instant, every memory slamming into him at once: the piano, the laughter, the rain, the heartbreak. Elian, he whispered before he could stop himself. The man's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. It's been a while, my beloved fiancé, and soon-to-be wife. The way he said wife low, rich, and possessive sent a jolt through Aiden's spine. He immediately scowled, masking the shiver that ran through him. You must be joking. Whatever childhood nonsense our mothers planned died years ago. Elian's smile didn't falter. He gestured elegantly to the seat across from him. Sit, Aiden. You look pale. I'm fine, Aiden snapped. Say what you want and let's end this. Elian slid a document across the table. The paper was aged, the ink perfectly preserved, marked with two signatures, Lady Frost and Lady Vale. At the bottom, in delicate handwriting, were the words that made Aiden's blood run cold. Binding agreement of betrothal between Aiden Vale and Elian Frost. Aiden blinked. Once, twice. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about you, Elian murmured, eyes soft but dangerous. Our parents may have forgotten their promise, but I haven't. And legally, he tapped the signature, neither has the law. Aiden leaned back, scoffing. You think I'm going to agree to this farce? What, you want to merge our companies through marriage? How romantic. Exactly, Elian said simply, smile widening. Aiden blinked. You're insane. Completely, Elian agreed without hesitation. 12 years of waiting does that to a man. He stood, walking around the table with the slow, deliberate grace of a predator. The scent of his pheromones, rich, addictive, unmistakably Enigma, filled the air and Aiden's heartbeat stuttered. Elian, he warned, voice tight. Elian stopped behind him, leaning down until his breath brushed the shell of Aiden's ear. You broke our promise once, my love, he whispered. You won't get the chance again. If I have to chain you to me, I will. Aiden's eyes darkened. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I would, Elian said, voice dipping lower. You're mine, Aiden. You always have been. The silence stretched, heavy with tension and old longing. Then Elian stepped back, smile turning softer, devastatingly so. Let's not make this ugly. We can merge our empires beautifully, with you beside me as my spouse, my equal, my love. Aiden's jaw clenched. You're delusional. Elian tilted his head, amused. And yet, you came when I called. That shut Aiden up. He hated how that one sentence hit too close. He had come against logic, against reason, against years of self-protection. He shouldn't have. But he did. And now, Elian had him exactly where he wanted him. The media went wild when the news broke. Vale Corporation and Frost Industries announce merger through marriage. Two titans of industry to unite in historic union. High society wedding of the century. No one knew the truth behind the polished smiles and diamond rings. No one saw the obsession simmering behind Elian's charming demeanor, the way his hand never left Aiden's back, the way his gaze lingered too long, too possessive. The wedding was extravagant, a spectacle of power and luxury. A cathedral lined with white roses, chandeliers dripping with crystals, violins echoing softly through the air. Aiden stood at the altar in a tailored black tuxedo, every inch of him regal, stoic, furious. Elian stood opposite, radiant, dressed in white, his expression soft as moonlight. The priest spoke. The vows were exchanged. Cameras flashed like lightning. And when Elian leaned in to kiss him, a slow, claiming kiss, Aiden didn't move away. Couldn't. Because even through his anger, his body remembered. The taste, the scent, the warmth. He told himself it was just for show, for the press, for the merger. But deep down, he knew that lie was breaking fast. Aiden's father was nowhere to be seen. The reason? He was conveniently sent abroad on sudden business and emergency Elian himself had orchestrated quietly through a series of strategic manipulations. He couldn't risk interference. Not this time. Not when, after 12 agonizing years, he finally had his beloved back within reach. As Aiden cut their wedding cake, smiling stiffly for the cameras, Elian's hand brushed his wrist. His thumb traced the pulse point slowly, deliberately, a silent mark, a promise. That night, After the guests left and the mansion emptied, Elian pulled Aiden into their private suite, shutting the door behind them. "You look exhausted, my love," he murmured. "I'm exhausted," Aiden snapped, "mostly from pretending to enjoy this circus." Elian chuckled softly, stepping closer until their chests brushed. "You'll get used to it. You used to love my attention." "I was 12, Aiden hissed. "You were a brat." "And you were mine," Elian whispered. The tension was unbearable, charged, dangerous, laced with something too familiar. Elian raised his hand, tracing the curve of Aiden's jaw, voice trembling with quiet devotion. "Do you know what 12 years felt like, Aiden? Every day I built empires, but all I wanted was you. Every night I closed my eyes and imagined your scent beside me. And now you're finally here in my home, in my name, bound to me by law and fate. I won't lose you again." Aiden looked away, his heart pounding too loud for comfort. "You're insane." Elian smiled faintly. "Then I suppose insanity suits me. After all, it got me my husband back." Outside, the city sparkled, two empires united under a marriage forged by obsession, power, and 12 years of burning love. And as the night deepened, Aiden Vale realized that this wasn't just a business merger. It was a possession. A beautiful, dangerous one, signed, sealed, and kissed by Elian Frost himself. Chapter 4. The Battle of the Penthouse. The penthouse at the top of Vale Tower had never known this much chaos. It used to be Aiden's silent kingdom, all glass walls, dark marble, and perfectly symmetrical furniture. Not a thing out of place. He liked it that way, cold, sterile, predictable. Until Elian Frost, his newly wedded husband, a word Aiden still choked on, moved in with sunlight and sin in his smile, and turned the place upside down within 24 hours. Now there were flowers in vases, soft music playing in the mornings, and Elian's white suit jackets thrown carelessly over Aiden's favorite black couch. And the worst part? The scent. That intoxicating Enigma scent that clung to everything to Aiden's bed, his shirts, his skin. Morning. Elian stood in the kitchen wearing nothing but a loose silk robe that left very little to the imagination. He was humming softly, flipping pancakes like he owned the sun. "Good morning, my beloved wife," Elian greeted, voice dripping with affection. Aiden dragged himself into the kitchen, hair messy, eyes half open, his soul clearly not ready for this level of enthusiasm. "Why do you look so grumpy? I made breakfast." "And I made a mistake by waking up," Aiden muttered, dropping into a chair. Elian laughed, leaning down to press a kiss on Aiden's temple. The alpha froze. "Elian, boundaries. Our marriage certificate says there aren't any." Aiden glared, cheeks tinged pink. Elian just smiled sweetly, victory glowing in his eyes. Days in the penthouse followed the same pattern. Elian was pure chaos, and devotion, brushing Aiden's hair when he fell asleep at his desk, sneaking kisses in the elevator, wrapping his arms around him from behind when Aiden was on a call. Aiden would grumble, shove him away, threaten divorce, and then silently let Elian pull him close again every night when the city lights went out. Because deep down, no matter how much he denied it, Aiden missed this. The warmth, the scent, the boy he once loved and left behind. And Elian knew it. He could feel it in the way Aiden's pheromones fluttered whenever he was near, restless, confused, wanting. One evening, Aiden returned from work, exhausted. He expected silence. Instead, he found rose petals leading from the door to the living room. Elian stood there, holding 2 glasses of champagne and wearing his shirt, the one Aiden had been looking for since morning. "Surprise dinner date?" Aiden asked flatly. "No? It's celebrate 1 month of putting up with my clinginess day." "I'll drink to that," Aiden said, stealing the glass. They ate together, bickering, teasing, laughing in between bites. Aiden almost forgot how much he hated love. Almost. But peace never lasted long in the Vale household. Because 2 days later, Aiden's father returned from his unexpected business trip, the one Elian had arranged. The older man stormed into the penthouse like a storm cloud in a tailored suit. "Aiden Vale, what nonsense is this I hear about you marrying him?" Elian smiled pleasantly from the couch, legs crossed, sipping tea like he wasn't the cause of the man's heart attack. Hello, father-in-law. You look well for someone who tried to sabotage our marriage. You? This is not a real marriage. You will divorce him immediately and marry an Omega. I will not have the veil line end in scandal. Aiden pinched the bridge of his nose. Father, please. But Elian stood up, his presence sharp as ice. His smile didn't reach his eyes. With all due respect, Mr. Vale, he said smoothly, your son already belongs to me. His ring, his name, his scent, all mine. And I'll make sure every Alpha and Omega in this city knows it. Aiden groaned. Elian, what? It's true, Elian said, turning to his husband with a smug grin. You're mine, Aiden, in every possible way. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Mr. Vale's jaw tightened. We'll see about that. And just like that, the battle lines were drawn, the overbearing father versus the obsessed Enigma, who would burn the world before giving up his alpha. Aiden stood in the middle, rubbing his temples. I should have married my coffee machine, Elian beamed. But then who would kiss you goodnight? And despite himself, Aiden almost smiled. Chapter 5. The Kidnapping. The world said power couple. Business headlines said Frost Vale Empire sealed with love. But behind the golden headlines and smiling photographs, Aiden Vale and Elian Frost were at war, one of sarcasm, obsession, and unspoken ache. For 4 months, Aiden had survived Elian's clinginess, dramatic love confessions in board meetings, and nightly cuddles that somehow felt less like affection and more like territorial claiming. But what he couldn't survive was his father's relentless pestering. Meet someone proper, Aiden. An Omega, not that overbearing Enigma. And after weeks of nagging, blackmail, and guilt trips, Aiden finally gave in. But not to flirt, not to cheat. Just to end it once and for all. The restaurant. Aiden sat at a private table, sipping his coffee with an expression that could curdle milk. Across from him sat an elegant Omega from another powerful family. Someone polite, kind, and very confused by the way Aiden glared at the menu like it personally offended him. Mr. Vale? Let's skip the small talk, Aiden interrupted. You do know I'm married, right? Yes, but to Elian Frost, the one who buys satellites when he's angry. So I'm curious, why would you even agree to a date with me? The Omega swallowed. Your father said, right. He says a lot of things, but I'm here to say I love my husband. He froze. Did he just know? He didn't. I mean, tolerate him, occasionally. So this, Aiden gestured around, isn't happening again. He leaned back, satisfied. Done. Clean break. No scandal. Until every light in the restaurant flickered off. The glass walls trembled. Security guards scrambled. Outside, the sound of helicopters and roaring engines filled the air. What the? Before Aiden could finish, the doors burst open. Elian Frost stood there, immaculate in black, eyes burning like wildfire, surrounded by his private guards. Everyone in the restaurant froze. The Omega paled. Aiden, Elian said, voice low and terrifyingly calm. You have 5 seconds to explain why you're on a date. Aiden pinched the bridge of his nose. Oh great, my stalker husband has upgraded to action movie villain. 3 seconds, Elian warned, walking toward him. Elian, it's not a date. I was just too late. Elian grabbed him by the wrist, pulled him to his chest, and glared at the stunned staff. Cancel his meetings, ground his schedule. He's coming home with me. Elian. Private jet, now. You're insane. Insanely in love, yes. By the time Aiden realized what was happening, he was already thousands of feet in the air, dragged into one of Elian's private jets, handcuffed in silk, because apparently even kidnappings needed luxury, and glaring daggers. You've completely lost it. Maybe, Elian said softly, tracing his fingers along Aiden's jaw. But I almost lost you, and that's something I'll never risk again. I was just telling them I'm married to you. You shouldn't have needed to say it, Elian whispered, voice trembling between love and madness. The world should see it, feel it, smell it. Aiden blinked. You're seriously scent-obsessed. Elian smirked. You're seriously mine. Abroad. Penthouse night. Aiden was furious. Elian was calm. Too calm. He had locked the doors, drawn the curtains, and dimmed the lights like preparing a stage for something far too intimate and dangerous. Aiden's voice cracked with anger and frustration. You can't just kidnap me every time you get jealous? Watch me, Elian murmured, pressing his forehead against Aiden's. You're impossible. And you're beautiful when you're angry. Aiden shoved him. You're out of your mind. Elian smiled that maddening, gentle, adoring smile. Only when it comes to you. He kissed him, then fierce, aching, years of love and pain collapsing into one touch. Aiden resisted at first, pushing, biting, cursing, but Elian only held him tighter, whispering against his lips. If the world wants an heir, they'll get one, but it'll be ours. Hours later, the night turned into a blur of heat, tears, and laughter. The sound of soft gasps, whispered apologies, and desperate confessions filled the air. Elian marked him permanently, possessively, a bond sealed with love that had been buried too long. And when dawn finally broke through the glass windows, Aiden lay asleep against Elian's chest, the world outside forgotten. Elian brushed a hand through his hair, his eyes soft but dark with satisfaction. He leaned down, pressing a kiss on Aiden's shoulder. Now, he whispered with a smile, you'll never escape me again. He got up quietly, adjusted the sheets, and began scenting the entire room, the bed, the pillows, the air itself until it was thick with his pheromones. It wasn't madness. It was devotion in its most dangerous form. Elian Frost finally had his alpha back. Body, soul, and scent. And this time, he wasn't letting go. Chapter 6. The Heir of Love. 3 weeks after the great kidnapping incident, as Aiden liked to call it, life at the Frost Vale penthouse had fallen into a very strange version of normal. Elian went to work smiling like a man who had just conquered heaven itself. Aiden, however, woke up every morning with nausea, mood swings, and an overwhelming urge to throw his husband off the balcony. If you bring me breakfast in bed one more time, I swear I'll bite you, Aiden groaned, face buried in a pillow. You've already done that, love, Elian said, grinning as he placed a silver tray of strawberries and croissants beside him. And I rather enjoyed it. You're disgusting. You're radiant. Aiden threw a pillow at him. The strange symptoms. At first, he blamed it on stress. Being locked in luxury could do that to anyone. But then came the cravings. At 2 a.m., he demanded cold pasta with chocolate syrup. At 4 a.m., he was crying over an advertisement for baby lotion. At 6 a.m., he punched a mirror because his reflection looked smug. Elian, instead of panicking, looked like a man discovering religion. Darling, he whispered one morning, watching Aiden glare at a croissant. You're glowing. I'm sweating, Elian. Still glowing. When Aiden finally snapped and called the doctor out of sheer exasperation, he expected bad news, not that news. The revelation. The doctor smiled kindly, flipping through her tablet. Congratulations, Mr. Valefrost, you're pregnant. Aiden blinked, then blinked again. Excuse me, I'm what? Pregnant, about 5 weeks. The room fell silent. Aiden's face turned red, his brain short-circuited, and his first words were, Elian, what the hell did you do to me? Elian froze, then his lips trembled, and to the doctor's horror, the terrifying CEO of Frost Industries started crying. You're carrying our baby, he whispered, voice shaking. Our baby, Aiden. Aiden stared at him in disbelief, then started laughing. Loud, hysterical, unfiltered laughter that echoed through the room. You're insane. Only for you, Elian said, pulling him into his arms. For the first time in years, Aiden didn't fight the embrace. He just sighed, resting against him, muttering, I hate how much I still love you. You just admitted you love me. Shut up before I throw up on you. Elian's overprotective reign. The next day, Elian Frost officially declared Aiden on maternity lockdown. Security doubled, all stairs banned, elevator usage monitored. A personal nutritionist, 2 doctors, and a chef followed Aiden everywhere. Aiden, of course, hated every second. "You act like I'm made of glass," he grumbled, sipping his vitamin smoothie. "You're carrying my heart," Elian replied dramatically. "I'm carrying your chaos." Behind the scenes, Elian made sure Aiden's father was quietly handled, no interference, no stress, no way to pull his son away again. No one, and he meant no one, would ever endanger his family. The journey. The months flew by in a blur of tenderness and insanity. Aiden's sarcasm remained lethal. Elian's love remained unconditional and a little deranged. "Stop staring at my belly. It's perfect. It's round, like you made me swallow a basketball. A very handsome basketball." He spoiled Aiden rotten diamond bracelets, silk pajamas, imported strawberries, private concerts, lullabies whispered at 3 a.m. Despite all his teasing, Aiden secretly loved every bit of it. The warmth, the safety, the laughter, the life they'd built from chaos. The birth and the chaos. When labor hit, it wasn't gentle. The hospital's luxury suite shook from Aiden's yelling. "I'm never letting you near me again. You're glowing, love," Elian sobbed, holding his hand. "I'm glowing with pain, you idiot. You're doing amazing." "Get out of my face, Elian." Hours later, the world quieted. Tiny cries filled the room. A nurse smiled softly. "It's a girl." Elian froze, then completely broke down, laughing and crying at once. Aiden, exhausted, held the little bundle in his arms, eyes soft and glimmering. "She's beautiful," he murmured. "Like you," Elian whispered. "If she ends up with your obsession, I'm running away. If she ends up with your sarcasm, I'll need therapy." They both laughed, tears mixing with smiles. Epilogue: Luxury chaos ever after. Months later, the Frost Vale penthouse was a whirlwind of baby giggles and chaos. Elian had turned an entire wing into a baby paradise, gold-trimmed cribs, custom toys, lullaby rooms, and staff terrified to touch anything without permission. Aiden lounged on the bed, their daughter nestled in his arms while Elian fed him strawberries. "You're ridiculous," Aiden muttered. "You're breathtaking," Elian replied, brushing strawberry juice off his lips. "Stop flirting in front of our child. She should know her fathers are madly in love." "Madly is the right word." Aiden smiled. Soft, real, the kind that reached his eyes. He had fought, run, denied, and resisted, but somehow Elian had always found his way back to him. Now, their love had a heartbeat, a giggle, and tiny hands gripping his finger. "So," Aiden murmured, looking down at their baby girl, "what do we name her?" Elian smiled, kissing his temple. "Amara. It means eternal." Aiden chuckled softly. "Fitting, since I'm apparently stuck with you forever." Elian grinned. "And you love every second of it." "Maybe." He leaned in, kissing him sweetly. Outside, the world kept spinning empires, luxury, power, but inside their home, there was only laughter, love, and a tiny girl who'd inherited both her father's mischief. The Frost Vale family was chaos, madness, and perfection all at once. And for the first time, Aiden wouldn't change a thing.